Boys, the Ashes of the Stars amulet, once again, is just silly. There's so many different things that have been enabled this league due to this amulet that it's kind of getting hard to even remember all of the different things it's good for at this point. And we got another one. You might have heard about this one. This is Phantasmal Cremation, as well as Phantasmal Unearth. Now, I do want to give a huge shout out to Gryph and Prey. And they've been hanging out with us, figuring out how this interaction works, and they do have a guide for a build that uses this. Be warned that the main pieces of the build, because this is so ridiculously overpowered and the pieces are relatively rare, that they're gonna be a little bit expensive. However, that expense is definitely worth it. If you want to go check out the guide, if you want to go check out Gryph and Prey and all of their content, make sure to go check down in the pinned comment below. All of their links are going to be in there. Now remember, boys, if you enjoy the content and these videos help you out, make sure to give them a like. Also consider subscribing to the YouTube channel, hitting that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest videos. And without further ado, let's get into it. Now, before we go too in depth with this, I want to give you an idea of how this interaction works. So the idea that we're using here is we are using Phantasmal Unearth as well as Phantasmal Cremation. Now, Phantasmal Unearth is just an extra damage modifier. It's not necessary, it just helps us do a lot more damage. Phantasmal Cremation is required for this interaction to work. Now, what you might notice is that the quality in here says chance to explode a nearby corpse when firing projectiles. Now, if you are noticing, that is a 98% chance to explode a nearby corpse when firing projectiles, thanks to Ashes of the Stars, once again, a ridiculously powerful amulet this league. Now, if I had my Ashes of the Stars at 30% to all quality, this would be 100%, but you know, what can I do? Now, at first glance, this might not seem too overpowered. However, there is a very specific thing that happens because of the way that cremation works. Now, when you read cremation, it says, chance to explode a nearby corpse when firing projectiles. I personally didn't fully understand exactly how cremation worked at first. I thought, oh, well, cremation fires projectiles every 1 second, so that means that it's going to be popping 1 corpse per second, right? And you can have 3 of them down at any given time, so 3 extra corpses per second, that's a lot of damage. I was wrong. Thanks to Gryph, who was over in our Twitch stream and helping explain this a little bit to us, we found out that it explodes a corpse for every single projectile that it shoots per 1 second. So this ability shoots 4 basic projectiles, and then because we are using greater multiple projectiles, it's shooting an additional 4. That means 8 projectiles every second from each one of the cremations, and each one of those projectiles pops a corpse. So to give you an idea, if we pop an Unearth here, and the Unearth is 5 corpses, as you can see here, and then we pop 1 cremation, you'll notice that every time I do this, you see how many of these corpses that it's popping? Every single one, I can barely keep enough of them down to get them all to pop. Now, when you have 3 of these going, so if we have 3 cremations going, I can essentially just sit here and spam at full speed, and it's using all of the corpses. If you notice up at the top left, the number there, Essence Glutton, shows how many corpses are nearby. Now, this in and of itself is very powerful, but there's something that I want to remind you about when it comes to the Necromancer, and that is Corpse Pact. 2% increased attack and cast speed for each corpse consumed recently, up to a maximum of 200. So, if we take a look at our Unearth cast speed here, it is currently at 42%. So, if we get some cremations going, and then I just sit here and hold, you'll notice that our cast speed is well up to 200% extra over what it was before. So the idea here is that this interaction is absolutely ridiculously busted. Now, Gryph has showcased the build doing Wave 30 Simulacrums on like a 5 link and being very, very, very easy for farming that. You might have seen some other people talking about this. This is a Wave 30 Simulacrum farmer. And because of that, the jewels are a little bit expensive. Now, Phantasmal Unearth is also pretty important because this does give additional corpse life. It is 146% increased maximum life thanks to Ashes of the Stars. And then we are using a +1, +1, +2, +1. I'm going to make another video once I'm fully done with this build and testing it out and doing everything that will be more of a full, closer to a guide, a video guide. Gryph already has a full written guide and you can check that out. Once again, it is in the pinned comment if you want to go check it out now, but I'll be making a video guide and Gryph will most likely be helping and maybe even make a cameo in the video at that point. But that's the idea. So since we scale the level of Unearth so insanely high, we are only at a level 18 gem right now and it's already a level 27 Unearth. So I am level 77. This character basically just hit maps earlier on stream today. I don't have a ton of crazy gear. I spent a decent amount of money crafting these gloves. If you're lucky, these can cost maybe like 4 Exalt. If you're unlucky, like 6 to 8. They're not as bad as they seem. And then we also just have like a trigger weapon, a random helmet. I bought the base. It was 2 Exalt for the Unearthed Spawned Corpses base, as well as just rolling it with dense fossils. We bought the Aegis Aurora. And yeah, we're just gonna run into a random tier 16 map to show you a little bit about how this build works. Now keep in mind, I have not scaled this build almost at all. I've done basically none of the real scaling. So this is unique boss life and a bunch of other random mods, but I want to give you an idea of how this build actually functions in a map. Now the idea here is that because we are going to get so much attack and cast speed, we run through, we hit the Unearth, we hit the Cremation, and since it's going to be stacking so much attack speed, we can move very quickly with shield charge through these maps. And I'll show you here. The damage isn't crazy yet, but with almost no gear beyond just the gloves and a 6-link, we're doing some pretty big damage. And this only scales up further and further and further as we level up these gems. As we get Unearth leveled up more, and as we go a little bit further into making the build, that damage is going to continue to scale at a ridiculous speed. And on top of that, this build is pretty tanky. If you look at some of the clips that Gryph has had of this build, I mean, like, a face tanking Wave 30 Simulacrum and just kind of sitting there AFK standing still in it, just holding down the button and hitting cremations every once in a while and just being basically fine. So that's the idea here, is that the damage scales insanely well with essentially only the gems and gem levels as well as the gloves, and then we can focus completely on defensive layers. It is honestly kind of an insane build, and I definitely suspect that something about this interaction is going to be nerfed by next patch. So if you want to play something like this, if you want to experience how ridiculous this build is, I highly suggest that you get in on it this league, because most likely, if I had to guess, GGG is probably going to be nerfing this build into the ground, if I had to guess, because let's be real, the amount of damage that this build is capable of doing, Wave 30 Simulacrums with essentially no problem whatsoever, is quite a bit. I'll give you a brief overview of the defenses that this build is eventually going to stack. This is going to be an Aegis Aurora build. The idea here is that we are going to have 90% all max res. We are going to have 25% of elemental damage from hits taken as chaos damage. We're going to have anywhere from like 5,000 to 7,000 energy shield once everything gets going. We're going to be leeching a ton of energy shield. We're going to have pretty high chance to block and recovering 2% of our armor when we block. We've got right now 22,300 armor, and I haven't even really begun to scale this build yet. So a ridiculous amount of armor already. We're going to be recovering 2% of that every single time we block. Even right now, that's almost like 500 energy shield every single time we block. So this build is going to be ridiculously tanky. And that is going to be it for the video. So look out for more of like a video coverage, video build review, build guide, whatever you want to call it, of Gryph's build coming out in the next week or so. As soon as I've got all the information together, I'll make sure to let you know. But in the meantime, make sure that you go support Gryph. This is his build. I did have a similar idea, but all of the build and all of the work that was done on it is 100% his. So make sure that you go support him, follow him on Twitch. I'm pretty sure he streams every once in a while. Give him a sub over on YouTube, and go check out his guide over on the forums. So that's going to be it, boys. I hope that you enjoy the video. Make sure that if you're enjoying the content, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest videos, and make sure that you stay safe out there in raid class. And I'll see you guys in the next video.